The massive alien ships hung in space like dark clouds over Earth. Their metal hulls gleamed under the light of the sun, casting long shadows across the blue planet below. Captain Marcus Stone stood on the bridge of the human flagship, watching the alien fleet through the main window. His hands were pressed against the glass, and his face showed the weight of what was about to happen. "Sir, they're sending another message," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim. Her voice was quiet and sad. Marcus turned away from the window. "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life. A tall alien with gray skin and 4 arms appeared. Its eyes were large and black, and it wore robes that marked it as a high member of the Galactic Council. This was Ambassador Kalthara, the one who had been trying to control humanity for the past 2 years. "Captain Stone," the alien said. Its voice was cold and without emotion. "This is your final warning. You have 1 solar rotation to recall all human ships and colonies from Galactic Council space. Any human found beyond your home system after this time will be destroyed." Marcus stepped forward, his jaw tight with anger. "Ambassador, we've been through this before. Humanity has done nothing wrong. We explored empty space and settled on planets that had no life. We followed every rule you gave us." The alien's 4 arms moved in what humans had learned was a sign of dismissal. "Your species is violent and unpredictable. The incident at Kepler Station proved this beyond doubt." "That was self-defense," Marcus shouted. "Your people attacked. Our civilians first." "The Council has made its decision," Kalthara said. "You will return to Earth or you will be eliminated. There is no third option." The screen went black. Marcus stared at the empty display for a long moment. Around him, the bridge crew waited in silence. They all knew what this meant. Humanity's dream of reaching the stars was over before it had really begun. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the ship's science officer, spoke up from her station. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures from the alien fleet. They're powering up weapons systems." Marcus closed his eyes for a second, then opened them with a heavy sigh. "Send the recall order to all human ships and colonies. Tell them they have 12 hours to pack up and head home." The next 12 hours were the longest in human history. Across the galaxy, human colonies that had been built with hope and dreams were abandoned. Families packed what they could carry and left behind homes they had worked years to build. Children cried as they were told they could never return to the only worlds they had ever known. On the mining station at Proxima 7, John Walsh supervised the evacuation. He had been there for 3 years, turning the rocky planet into a place where humans could live and work. Now he watched as the last transport ship loaded with evacuees prepared to leave. "Dad, why do we have to go?" asked his 8-year-old daughter, Emma. She held her favorite toy, a small robot she had built from spare parts. John knelt down beside her, trying to find words that would make sense to a child. "The other people in space don't want us here anymore, sweetheart. They're afraid of us." "But we're not scary," Emma said. "We just wanted to explore and make friends." John's throat felt tight. "I know, honey. But sometimes people are afraid of things they don't understand." Similar scenes played out across dozens of human colonies. On New Terra, farmers abandoned crops that would have fed thousands. On Research Station Beta, scientists destroyed years of work rather than let it fall into alien hands. Every human in space felt the same crushing weight of defeat and anger. Back at Earth, Marcus stood in the command center of Luna Base, watching the evacuation reports come in. Each ship that returned carried not just people, but also stories of loss and betrayal. The aliens had promised humanity a place among the stars when first contact was made 5 years ago. They had offered knowledge and friendship, but it had all been lies. "Captain, we're receiving a priority message from the Galactic Council," said Commander Lisa Park, his second-in-command. "They want to speak with you directly." "Put it through to the main screen," Marcus said. This time, it wasn't just Ambassador Kalthara. The screen showed the full Galactic Council representatives from 50 different alien species. They sat in a huge circular chamber, all looking down at Marcus like judges about to pass sentence on a criminal. The council speaker A being that looked like a giant insect with jeweled wings began to talk. Captain Stone, representing the species known as humanity. The Galactic Council has reached a unanimous decision regarding your people. Marcus stood straight, trying to show strength even though he felt defeated. We're listening. Humanity is hereby banished from Galactic Council space. Your species has shown itself to be violent, unpredictable, and unable to follow the laws that keep peace in our galaxy. You will return to your home solar system and remain there. For how long? Marcus asked. Forever, the speaker replied. To ensure compliance, we will establish a containment barrier around your solar system. Any attempt to leave will result in immediate destruction. Marcus felt his heart sink. You're making us prisoners in our own home. You are being given the gift of life, said another council member, one that looked like a giant tree with a face in its trunk. Many species voted for your complete destruction. Be grateful that wiser minds prevailed. The transmission ended. Around Marcus, the command staff stood in shocked silence. They had known this was coming, but hearing it spoken out loud made it real in a way that hurt more than they expected. Over the next 3 days, the alien fleet began construction of what they called the containment barrier. Massive machines floated in space at the edge of the solar system, creating an invisible wall that would keep humanity trapped. The barrier used technology that humans didn't understand, bending space and time to create a barrier that nothing could cross. Dr. Rodriguez worked day and night trying to understand how the barrier worked, but the alien technology was too advanced. It's like trying to figure out a computer using Stone Age tools, she told Marcus. They're centuries ahead of us in physics. On the final day, Marcus watched from the observation deck as the last human ship crossed back into the solar system. The ship was barely damaged from an alien attack that had killed 12 colonists who tried to resist the evacuation. As soon as it passed through the barrier, the invisible wall sealed shut with a flash of light that could be seen from Earth. Marcus placed his hand against the window and looked out at the stars that humanity could no longer reach. This isn't over, he whispered to himself. Someday we'll find a way out. And when we do, the galaxy will see what humans are really capable of. Behind him, Dr. Rodriguez was already making plans. She had managed to scan some of the alien technology. During the evacuation, it wasn't much, but it was a start. Humanity had been given a challenge that seemed impossible. But humans had always been good at doing impossible things. The barrier hummed with alien energy, keeping Earth's children locked away from the stars they had dreamed of reaching. But barriers, as humanity would learn, were made to be broken. And humans were very good at breaking things that tried to keep them caged. The exile had begun. But so had humanity's determination to prove the galaxy wrong about what they were capable of becoming. 50 years had passed since the Great Banishment. Earth looked different now. The blue planet was covered with new cities that reached high into the sky. Space stations floated around it like metal rings, each one bigger than the old Luna base. But the most important changes were the ones that couldn't be seen from space. Dr. Sarah June stood in her laboratory deep under the mountains of Tibet. She was 35 years old, but her eyes held the same determination that her parents had shown 50 years ago. Her mother and father had died during the evacuation from the colonies, killed when alien ships destroyed their transport. Sarah had been only 5 then, but she remembered everything. "Computer, show me the barrier analysis from yesterday," she said to the air. A holographic display appeared in front of her, showing the invisible wall that still surrounded the solar system. For 50 years, the best human scientists had studied it. They had sent probes against it, fired weapons at it, and tried every form of energy they could think of. Nothing worked. The barrier absorbed everything and stayed as strong as ever, but Sarah was not trying to break through it. She was trying to go around it. "The aliens think in 3 dimensions, she said to her assistant, Dr. Mark Torres. He was a young man who had been born after the exile, like most people on Earth now. They built their barrier to stop us from moving through normal space. But what if we don't use normal space?" Mark looked confused. "I don't understand, Dr. Chun. There is no other space except normal space," Sarah smiled. That's what everyone thinks. But I've been studying the alien technology we captured during the evacuation. They use something they call dimensional folding to power their ships. What if space has layers, like pages in a book? She waved her hand and the hologram changed. Now it showed what looked like sheets of paper floating one above the other. If we could slip between the layers, we might be able to move around the barrier instead of through it. Mark shook his head. That sounds impossible. Even if other dimensions exist, how would we get to them? With this, Sarah said, pointing to a strange machine in the corner of her lab. It looked like a metal sphere covered in cables and blinking lights. I call it the dimensional phase generator. I've been working on it for 10 years. The machine was built using parts from alien technology that had been secretly saved during the evacuation. Sarah's team had also made new discoveries by studying the barrier itself. Every time they sent a probe against it, they learned a little more about how alien science worked above ground. The rest of humanity was also busy. General Patricia Kane stood in the command center of the Earth Defense Force, looking at reports from secret projects around the solar system. She was the daughter of Captain Marcus Stone, who had died 15 years ago, still believing that humanity would escape their prison. "Ma'am, the shipyards on Titan report that the new stealth cruisers are ready for testing," said Colonel James Park, the son of Commander Lisa Park. Many of the new generation carried on the work their parents had started. Patricia nodded. "And the weapon systems?" "Beyond anything we had before the exile. The plasma cannons can cut through a moon, and the shield generators can stop almost any attack. We've also completed the first batch of enhancement implants for our soldiers." The enhancement implants were one of humanity's greatest achievements during their isolation. By combining alien biotechnology with human medical knowledge, they had created devices that could be placed inside a person's body to make them stronger, faster, and smarter. The early volunteers had been nervous, but the results were amazing. Enhanced humans could think faster than computers and had strength that seemed impossible. Patricia touched the small scar behind her ear where her own implant had been placed. "How many volunteers do we have for the next phase of testing?" "Over 10,000, ma'am." "Everyone wants to be part of the Liberation Force." Patricia smiled grimly. The Liberation Force was humanity's secret army, trained for the day when they would break free from their prison and face the aliens again. But this time they would be ready. Meanwhile, on Mars, another group of scientists worked on a different kind of breakthrough. Dr. Kevin Walsh, the son of John Walsh, who had supervised the evacuation from Proxima 7, led a team studying alien communications technology. They had built listening posts throughout the solar system, trying to hear what was happening in the galaxy beyond their barrier. "Doctor, we're receiving something," said his assistant, Dr. Amanda Stone, granddaughter of Captain Marcus Stone. "It's a message from the Kepler sector." Kevin put on his headphones and listened. The message was in an alien language, but human computers had learned to translate most Galactic Council languages over the years. What he heard made him excited and angry at the same time. "They're talking about rebellions," he told Amanda. "Several species are fighting against the Galactic Council. The Zephyrians, the Mokari, even some of the Altarian colonies." "It sounds like the Council isn't as powerful as they pretend to be." Amanda leaned forward. "Are you thinking what I think you're thinking?" Kevin nodded. "When we break out of here, we won't be alone. There are allies waiting for us out there." Back in her laboratory, Sarah was ready to test her dimensional phase generator. She had built a small probe, no bigger than a basketball, equipped with cameras and communication equipment. If her theory was right, the probe would slip into the space between dimensions and come out on the other side of the barrier. "Beginning. Test number 47, she said into her recorder. The first 46 tests had failed in different ways. Some probes had simply disappeared. Others had come back twisted into impossible shapes. But each failure taught her something new. She activated the machine. The metal sphere began to glow with strange blue light. The air around it seemed to bend and twist like looking through water. The probe floated into the center of the light and then vanished. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Sarah's communication equipment crackled to life. "This is Probe 47, came the automated voice. "I am transmitting from coordinates that appear to be outside the solar system. The barrier is behind me. Repeat, I am outside the barrier." Sarah felt her heart racing. She had done it. After 50 years, humanity had found a way out of their prison, but she didn't celebrate yet. The probe had to make it back for the test to be complete. If something went wrong during the return trip, she might lose everything she had learned. "Probe 47, return to starting position," she commanded. The blue light appeared again, and the probe materialized in her laboratory. Sarah ran to it immediately, checking every system to make sure it was undamaged. Everything looked perfect. "Mark," she said quietly, "call General Kane. Tell her we need to meet immediately." "Should I tell her what happened?" Sarah shook her head. "Just tell her that Project Exodus is ready for the next phase." Project Exodus was the code name for humanity's escape plan. For 50 years, they had been preparing for this moment. They had built weapons that could match alien technology. They had enhanced their bodies and minds to be better than ever before. They had learned about the galaxy beyond their prison and found potential allies. Now they had the key to their cage. That night, Sarah stood on the observation deck of Luna Base, looking out at the stars that had been forbidden to humanity for half a century. Her parents had died believing that humanity would never be free, but she would prove them wrong. "We're coming," she whispered to the galaxy beyond. "And this time, we're not the same species you banished. We're something new, something stronger." The barrier still hummed with alien energy, but now Sarah knew it was not a wall. It was just an obstacle, and humans had always been very good at finding ways around obstacles. The long isolation was almost over. Soon, humanity would return to the stars, and the galaxy would learn what 50 years of forced evolution could do to a species that refused to give up. The first human ship to leave the solar system in 51 years was no bigger than a house. The HSS Pathfinder slipped through the dimensional fold like a ghost, carrying a crew of 12 enhanced humans led by Captain Emma Walsh. She was the daughter of the little girl who had asked her father why they had to leave Proxima 7 all those years ago. "Dimensional phase complete," announced Lieutenant David Chun, Sarah's younger brother. His enhanced reflexes allowed him to control the complex navigation systems that normal humans couldn't handle. "We're now 15 light years from Earth." "No sign that the aliens detected us," Emma smiled. After months of secret testing, humanity's new technology worked perfectly. The dimensional phase drive let them slip between layers of space, moving around the alien barrier like water flowing around a rock. But being free was just the first step. Now came the real challenge. "Take us to the Kepler system," Emma ordered. "But keep us cloaked. We're not ready to announce ourselves yet." The Pathfinder moved through space using engines that made no sound and left no trace. Human scientists had learned from studying alien technology, but they had also improved it. Where alien ships used brute force, human ships used cleverness. Where aliens announced their presence with powerful energy signatures, humans moved like shadows. 3 days later, they reached the ruins of what had once been Kepler Station. Emma stared at the twisted metal floating in space where her people had once lived and worked. The alien attack 50 years ago had destroyed everything, but now she could see something the reports had never mentioned. David scanned those debris fields. "Look for anything that doesn't match our old technology." David's enhanced eyes studied the sensor readings. "Captain, I'm detecting weapon signatures that aren't human or Galactic Council. These look like resistance fighters." Emma felt her pulse quicken. The intelligence reports from Earth had been right. The galaxy was not the peaceful place under alien control that the Council claimed it to be. There were others fighting back. "Set course for the Zephyrian colonies," she ordered, "but stay hidden. We watch and learn before we make contact." The Zephyrian system was 3 days away at their current speed. When they arrived, Emma couldn't believe what she saw. The beautiful blue-green worlds that intelligence reports described were now gray and lifeless. Huge alien mining ships hung over the planets like metal clouds, stripping away everything valuable. My God, whispered Dr. Lisa Park, the mission's science officer. They're destroying entire worlds. Through their advanced sensors, they watched Zephyrian workers being forced to load ships with the resources from their own dying planets. The workers looked thin and weak, nothing like the proud species that had once built great cities among the clouds of gas giants. Captain, David said quietly, I'm detecting a small signal from the third moon. It's encrypted, but our computers are breaking it down. It looks like ... distress call. Emma made a decision that would change everything. Take us to that moon, but keep us invisible. The third moon was supposed to be empty, according to Galactic Council records. But as they got closer, their sensors revealed hidden structures built inside ancient craters. Someone was definitely living there in secret. This is it, Emma said. Our first contact since the exile. Everyone stay calm and follow my lead. They landed the Pathfinder in a crater near the hidden base. Emma put on her environmental suit and stepped outside, carrying only a translation device and a small energy weapon. She walked to what looked like a solid rock wall and waited. After 10 minutes, part of the wall slid open. A tall, thin creature with blue skin and 4 arms stepped out. It was a Zephyrian, but this one looked different from the workers they had seen. This one stood straight and proud, carrying weapons that looked homemade but deadly. The Zephyrian spoke in its own language, but Emma's translator converted it immediately. You are not Council forces. What species are you? Why do you hide your ship? Emma removed her helmet, showing her human face. The Zephyrian stepped back in surprise. I am Captain Emma Walsh of the human species, she said. We were exiled from this galaxy 50 years ago. We have returned. The Zephyrian's large eyes grew even larger. Humans? But you were destroyed. The Council said your species was eliminated. For being too dangerous, Emma smiled grimly. The Council lied. We were imprisoned, not destroyed, and now we're free. I am Commander Catherine of the Zephyrian Liberation Front, the alien said. If you are truly human, then perhaps the old prophecies are true. What prophecies? Catherine gestured for Emma to follow him into the hidden base. Inside she found dozens of Zephyrians working on weapons and communication equipment. The base was small but well organized, clearly the center of some kind of resistance movement. Before your exile, there were stories, Catherine explained. Stories of a young species that fought the Council and refused to bow down. Some of our elders said that one day, when the galaxy grew dark enough, the humans would return to help free us all. Emma felt a chill run down her spine. How many species are fighting the Council? More than you might think, Catherine said. The Mokari, the Altarians, the Kithara, even some of the outer human colonies that escaped the initial roundup. We've been in contact with resistance cells across the galaxy, but we lack the technology and coordination to fight effectively. Emma looked around the base. These people were brave, but their equipment was old and makeshift. They were fighting with weapons that were 50 years behind Galactic Council technology. What if I told you that we could provide better weapons? Emma asked. And training? And coordination between all the resistance groups? Catherine stared at her. You would do this? Even after what the Council did to your people? Especially because of what the Council did to our people, Emma replied. And because of what they're doing to yours. Over the next several days, Emma's team worked with the Zephyrian rebels to establish a secure communication network. Using human technology, they created a way for resistance groups to talk to each other without the Council detecting their messages. The first message they received came from a Mokari colony ship hiding in an asteroid field. The Mokari were a peaceful species known for their skill in medicine and healing, but the message they sent was full of anger. The Council has been using our people as forced laborers in their medical facilities, the message said. They claim we are too valuable to fight, so they keep us as slaves to heal their soldiers. We have weapons and ships, but nowhere to hide them. The second message came from an Altarian research station. The Altarians were brilliant engineers who had built some of the most beautiful cities in the galaxy. Their message was equally desperate. Our worlds have been strip-mined for materials to build council ships. Our people are scattered across the galaxy, working in council factories. We have knowledge that could help any resistance, but no way to fight back safely. Emma realized that humanity had an opportunity bigger than just escaping their prison. They could become the center of a galaxy-wide rebellion against the Council's tyranny. "David, send a message back to Earth," she ordered. "Tell them to prepare Phase 2 of the Liberation Plan. We're not just breaking out anymore. We're going to help everyone break free." Over the following months, more human ships slipped through the dimensional barriers. Each one carried enhanced humans, advanced weapons, and plans for secret bases. They established hidden colonies on dead worlds, built supply depots in empty space, and created a network of safe houses for resistance fighters. The key to their success was staying invisible. Human stealth technology was so advanced that Council sensors couldn't detect them. Human ships could land on planets, unload supplies, and leave without anyone knowing they had been there. Dr. Sarah Chun herself led the third wave of ships, carrying the dimensional phase generators that would allow resistance groups to move quickly between star systems. She met with leaders from 12 different species, all of whom had been oppressed by the Council in different ways. "The Council rules through fear," she told them during a secret meeting on an abandoned space station. "They make each species think they're alone in their suffering, but you're not alone anymore. Humanity stands with you." A year after the first breakthrough, the resistance network stretched across half the galaxy. Weapons flowed from human factories to rebel groups. Intelligence moved between species that had never been able to communicate before. Most importantly, hope spread from world to world. The Galactic Council still didn't know that humans had returned. They thought the barrier around Earth was still working perfectly. They had no idea that their greatest nightmare had already begun. Emma stood on the bridge of her new ship, the HSS Liberation, looking out at a fleet of vessels from a dozen different species. All of them carried human weapons and technology. All of them were ready to fight. "The silent expansion is complete," she reported to Earth. "Phase 3 can begin whenever you're ready." Phase 3 was the declaration of war. But this time, humanity wouldn't be fighting alone. The war began with a single message broadcast across the galaxy. On every Council communication channel, on every military frequency, the same words appeared in dozens of languages. "We are humanity. We have returned. Freedom begins now." Ambassador Kelthara, now the Supreme Commander of Council forces, stared at the message on his command ship's main screen. His forearms trembled with rage and fear. The barrier around Earth was still intact. His sensors showed no human ships in the galaxy. Yet somehow, the impossible had happened. "Find them," he ordered his officers. "Scan every system, board every ship. The humans cannot have simply disappeared for 50 years and returned without U.S. knowing." But Kelthara was looking for the wrong thing. He expected to find large human fleets attacking Council worlds directly. Instead, humanity fought a different kind of war. They were everywhere and nowhere, striking like lightning and vanishing like smoke on the industrial world of Korath. Prime, Council soldiers woke up to find their weapons depot had been completely emptied during the night. Security cameras showed nothing. Guard posts reported no intruders. The weapons had simply vanished as if they had never existed. The stolen weapons appeared 3 days later in the hands of Mokari rebels, who used them to free an entire slave camp. When Council reinforcements arrived, they found empty buildings, and a message written on the wall: "Freedom is not negotiable." Signed, Humanity and Friends. Captain Jake Torres led the Human Special Forces team responsible for the Korath raid. His body was enhanced with implants that made him faster than any normal human, and his team could move through the shadows like ghosts. They had studied alien military tactics for 50 years, learning every weakness and mistake the Council. Forces made. "The aliens fight like they're still living in the past," Jake told his team as they prepared for their next mission. "They rely on big ships and heavy weapons. They think wars are won by having the most firepower. They don't understand. That real victory comes from never letting the enemy see you coming. Jake's team struck 17 Council facilities in a single month. They rescued prisoners, destroyed supply lines, and stole intelligence that helped resistance groups across the galaxy coordinate their attacks. The Council began to fear the darkness itself, never knowing when invisible human soldiers might appear, but the humans weren't the only ones fighting. On the gas giant moon of Altara 7, the resistance had grown into a full army. Commander Zethalan, an Altarian engineer, led 3,000 rebels equipped with human weapons and training. "Today we take back our sky cities," she announced to her troops. The Altarians had once built beautiful floating cities in the upper atmosphere of gas giants. The Council had destroyed most of them and forced the survivors to work in underground factories. Zethalan's army attacked the Council garrison at dawn. But instead of charging directly at the enemy, they used human tactics. Small teams struck at different points around the base, confusing the defenders. Human-designed plasma rifles cut through Council armor like it was made of paper. Human shields protected the rebels from energy weapons that should have killed them instantly. The battle lasted only 4 hours. When it was over, the Council garrison had been completely destroyed, and the rebels had captured enough equipment to arm 5 more resistance groups. Dr. Sarah Chun watched the battle reports from her command ship hidden in deep space. She was now 55 years old, but the enhancement implants kept her mind sharp and her reflexes quick. Around her, officers from 12 different species worked together to coordinate attacks across the galaxy. "The Council is starting to panic," reported Commander Kethrin, the Zephyrian leader who had first made contact with humanity. "They're pulling ships back from their outer territories to protect their core worlds." Sarah smiled. "Good. That means the outer colonies can start declaring independence. How many systems are ready to openly rebel?" 47 so far," said Dr. Yintapel, a Mokari medical officer who had joined the human fleet. The Council simply doesn't have enough ships to hold everything together anymore. The truth was that the Galactic Council had never expected this kind of war. For thousands of years, they had ruled by making each species afraid to fight back. They would destroy one world as an example, and the others would surrender without a battle. But humanity had shown the galaxy that the Council could be beaten, and that courage was contagious. On Earth, General Patricia Kane stood in the war room deep under the North American Command Center. Holographic displays showed battles happening across the galaxy in real time. Her enhanced soldiers had become legends among the resistance fighters, and her tactical knowledge was being used to plan operations on hundreds of worlds. "Ma'am, we're receiving a priority message from the Zephyrian Home Fleet," said Colonel James Park. "They're ready to begin Operation Thunderstorm." Patricia nodded. Operation Thunderstorm was the plan to liberate the Zephyrian homeworld, which had been under direct Council control for 30 years. It would be the largest battle since the war began, and success would prove to the galaxy that even the Council's strongest fortresses could fall. "Tell Admiral Chun to proceed," Patricia ordered, "and remind her that the whole galaxy will be watching." Admiral Sarah Chun had been promoted to lead the combined human and alien fleet that would attack the Zephyrian homeworld. Her flagship, the HSS Defiance, was unlike any ship that had ever been built. It combined human stealth technology with weapons designed by Altarian engineers and shields created by Mokari scientists. It was a symbol of what the galaxy could achieve when species worked together instead of fighting each other. The attack began at midnight local time. 50 human ships phased through dimensional space to appear inside the Council's defensive perimeter. At the same time, 200 rebel ships from various species attacked from the outside, drawing the Council's attention away from the main assault. The Council defenders never saw the human ships coming. The first they knew of the attack was when their command station exploded in a ball of fire. Within minutes, the orbital defense platforms were destroyed, and human soldiers were teleporting directly onto Council ships. Lieutenant Emma Walsh, now a seasoned Special Forces officer like her mother had been a ship captain, led a team that captured the Council's planetary governor. She found him hiding in his bunker 3 kilometers underground, protected by enough armor to stop a nuclear weapon. "You cannot defeat the Council," the governor said as Emma's team surrounded him. "We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. We will rule it for 10,000 more." Emma looked at the alien through her helmet visor. "Maybe you ruled for 10,000 years, but you ruled through fear and violence. We're offering something you never could. What is that?" "Hope," Emma said simply, "and hope is stronger than fear." The battle for the Zephyrian homeworld lasted 3 days. When it was over, the Council fleet had been destroyed, and millions of Zephyrian prisoners were free. The victory celebration could be seen from space as freed slaves lit fires of joy in every city, but the Council was not finished. Supreme Commander Kelthara gathered the largest fleet in the galaxy's history. Over 10,000 ships from 100 different worlds, all equipped with the most powerful weapons the Council had ever built. "If we cannot rule through fear," he told his officers, "then we will rule through destruction. I want every rebel world burned, every resistance fighter killed, every human ship destroyed. Show the galaxy what happens to those who defy the Council." The fleet moved toward the center of rebel territory, planning to destroy world after world until the resistance collapsed. But Kelthara had made the same mistake that military leaders had made throughout history. He thought that more violence would solve his problems. Admiral Sarah Chun received reports of the massive Council fleet and smiled. "They still don't understand," she told her officers. "They think this war is about who has the biggest guns. They don't realize it's about who the people of the galaxy want to follow." She opened a communication channel that reached every resistance group in the galaxy. "This is Admiral Chun. The Council is bringing everything they have to try to crush us. They think fear will make us surrender. They're about to learn that they're wrong." Across the galaxy, rebel fleets began moving toward a single meeting point. Ships that had been hiding in asteroid fields and on the edges of solar systems came out of the shadows. Worlds that had been secretly building weapons revealed arsenals that surprised even the human commanders. The largest battle in Galactic history was about to begin. And for the first time in 50 years, humanity would not be fighting alone against impossible odds. This time they had friends. The final battle took place in the Nexus system, where the Galactic Council had built their capital city among the rings of a massive gas giant. It was here that decisions affecting trillions of beings had been made for thousands of years. It was here that humanity had been sentenced to exile 51 years ago. And it was here that the future of the galaxy would be decided. Admiral Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the HSS Defiance, looking at the largest fleet ever assembled. Over 3,000 ships floated in formation around her flagship. Humans, Zephyrians, Makari, Altarians, and dozens of other species had come together for this moment. Each ship carried weapons and technology that had been shared freely between species, creating vessels more powerful than anything the galaxy had ever seen. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Council capital," reported Lieutenant David Chun, Sarah's brother who had served with her throughout the war. "Put it through," Sarah said. The main screen showed Supreme Commander Kelthara aboard his massive flagship. Behind him, the Council chamber was visible, filled with representatives from the remaining loyal species. The alien looked older and more desperate than he had during humanity's original exile. "Admiral Chun," Kelthara said, his forearms spread. "And what humans had learned was a gesture of surrender. I offer you terms. Withdraw your fleets, return to your home system, and we will allow your allied species to govern themselves with limited Council oversight." Sarah almost laughed. "You're offering us what we took by force as if it's a gift? Supreme Commander, you still don't understand what's happening here." "Then explain it to me," Kelthara demanded. "This isn't about humanity conquering the galaxy," Sarah said. "This is about freedom. Every species here chose to fight for their right to live as they see fit. You can't negotiate away their freedom because it was never yours to give." She gestured to the fleet around them. "Look at these ships, Commander." Humans provided the stealth technology, but Altarians designed the engines. Makari created the medical systems that keep our crews healthy during long missions. Zephyrians built the communication networks that let us coordinate across vast distances. This fleet exists because we learned to work together instead of trying to dominate each other. Kalthara's eyes narrowed. Pretty words, but you still came here to destroy us. No, Sarah said quietly. We came here to replace you. The battle began when the Council fleet opened fire first. 10,000 Council ships launched their weapons at the same time, creating a wave of energy that lit up space like a new star. But when the light faded, the rebel fleet was still there, protected by shields that bent the energy around them instead of trying to stop it. Captain Emma Walsh led the first wave of human fighters through the Council formation. Her ship moved, like a dancing shadow, appearing behind enemy vessels and destroying them before they could react. Around her, pilots from a dozen species flew in perfect coordination, using tactics that combined the best ideas from all their cultures. Focus on the command ships, Emma ordered over the communication network. Cut off their coordination and their formations will fall apart. The Council had built their strategy around overwhelming firepower and rigid military discipline, but they had never fought an enemy that could appear and disappear at will, that could coordinate attacks across vast distances instantly, and that fought with the creativity of multiple species working together. Within 2 hours, the Council's outer defense lines had collapsed. Their ships were powerful, but they were designed to fight the old kind of war where fleets lined up and shot at each other until one side gave up. They couldn't handle enemies that attacked from above, below, and inside their formations at the same time. On the capital station, Council members began to panic. Species that had supported the Council for centuries started to question whether they were on the winning side. Some began to secretly send messages to the rebel fleet, offering to surrender. Dr. Yintapel, the Mokari medical officer, received the first surrender message. Admiral Chun, the Korathi delegation, wants to switch sides. They're offering to open the Eastern Defense Grid if we promise not to attack their homeworld. Sarah considered this carefully. The easy thing would be to accept any surrender that helped them win faster. But the whole point of this war was to build something better than what the Council had created. Tell them they can surrender, but not to us, Sarah said. They need to surrender to representatives of the species they helped oppress. If the Korathi want forgiveness, they need to ask it from the people they wronged. This decision changed everything about how the battle proceeded. Instead of simply defeating the Council, the rebel fleet began creating opportunities for justice and reconciliation. Former enemies were given chances to make amends. Species that had been forced to fight for the Council were welcomed as allies once they laid down their weapons. The turning point came when the Altarian engineers managed to disable the capital station's main power grid. The massive city went dark, its weapons offline and its shields failing. But instead of destroying it, Admiral Chun ordered her fleet to surround it and wait. This is Admiral Sarah Chun of the Galactic Liberation Fleet, she broadcast to every communication channel. In the galaxy? To the people of the Council worlds, to the soldiers following orders they know are wrong, to anyone who has suffered under the Council's rule. Today you have a choice. She paused, looking out at the thousands of ships around her. You can continue to follow leaders who rule through fear and violence, or you can join us in building something new. A galaxy where different species work together as equals, where no one is enslaved or oppressed, where the strong protect the weak instead of exploiting them. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Across the galaxy, Council worlds began declaring independence. Military units mutinied against their officers. Entire fleets switched sides and joined the liberation movement. Supreme Commander Kalthara made one last desperate attempt to maintain power. He activated the capital station's self-destruct system, planning to destroy himself and take as many rebels with him as possible. But Lieutenant Emma Walsh had anticipated this. Her Special Forces team had been infiltrating the station during the battle, moving through maintenance shafts and service tunnels that the Council defenders had forgotten existed. When Kalthara reached for the destruction button, he found Emma's weapon pointed at his head. "It's over," she said simply. You lost the moment you decided that fear was stronger than hope. Kalthara looked around the council chamber, seeing, for the first time, that most of the representatives had already fled. Only a few of his most loyal followers remained, and even they looked ready to surrender. "What happens to us now?" he asked. Emma lowered her weapon. "That's not up to me to decide. It's up to the people you ruled. But I can tell you this, we're not like you. We don't solve problems by making them disappear." 3 days later, representatives from over 200 species gathered in the same council chamber where humanity had been sentenced to exile. But this time, the meeting was different. Instead of a few powerful species making decisions for everyone else, each world had an equal voice. Dr. Sarah Chun, now 75 years old but still sharp thanks to her enhancements, stood before the assembly. She had been chosen not as a ruler, but as a spokesperson for the principles that had guided the rebellion. 51 years ago, my species was exiled from this galaxy for being too violent and unpredictable, she began. The council was right about one thing: we were dangerous. But not in the way they thought. She gestured to the diverse crowd around her. We were dangerous because we refused to accept that some people deserve freedom while others deserve slavery. We were dangerous because we believed that different species could work together as equals. We were dangerous because we had hope. The chamber was completely silent as she continued. Today we established the Galactic Federation, not as conquerors but as partners. Every species, no matter how small or weak, has the right to govern itself. Every world has the right to choose its own path. And everyone has the right to live free from fear. The vote was unanimous. Even former council loyalists supported the new government, recognizing that the old system had failed completely. As the ceremony ended, Sarah walked to the observation deck that looked out over the gas giant's rings. Captain Emma Walsh joined her, now promoted to admiral and chosen to lead the Federation's peacekeeping forces. "Do you think it will work?" Emma asked. "A galaxy governed by cooperation instead of force?" Sarah smiled, remembering her parents who had died believing humanity would never be free. "It won't be easy. There will be conflicts and disagreements. Some species will try to dominate others. But now we know it's possible. We've proven that different people can work together to build something better than what came before." She pointed to the stars beyond the gas giant. "And we have something the old council never had." "What's that?" "Time," Sarah said. "The council ruled through fear, and fear only works until someone shows you there's another way. But hope grows stronger every time it's shared. And we've shared it with the entire galaxy." Above them, ships from dozens of species patrolled the space around the new Federation capital. Human vessels flew alongside former enemies,